Welcome back, folks, to One Stage at a Time. This is the podcast where we, of course, are playing through every level of a classic video game and getting real analytical about all of the design elements, the aesthetic value, and, just what makes these games so classic. Today, we're continuing our series on Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and the stage we're playing today is Forest Frenzy, which happens to be the third stage of the third world, the third world being Vine Valley. So, here we are, right back into the forest tile set after we had this tile set just 2 stages ago, didn't we, Aaron?
Yeah, and the level that kicked things off. They love their alliteration.
They do, yeah.
They love it. They just
Rare is just crazy for alliteration.
you think, oh, that's cute, and then you're like, it won't stop. It never stops.
It's just cheeky wordplay all over the place with these guys.
I appreciate it, but at the same time, it's like, come on, guys, get a different shtick.
Oh, I forgot to introduce us.
Who am I?
You're Aaron Neeson.
Hi, I'm Aaron Neeson. Thanks for listening and watching.
And I'm Andy Prim.
Welcome, Andy.
And we are your co-hosts on this journey.
The ghosts of One Stage at a Time. Anime intro.
Aaron, would you like to describe Forest Frenzy for our dear listeners?
Forest Frenzy was one long Tarzan level. magic ropes.
Oh.
Yeah, very much magic ropes that you could swing through the entire forest with. It was literally like scrambling up and down these ropes as fast as you can most of the time to avoid zingers, my buzzy boys, to avoid neckies that are flying around, and that's really the majority of this level. There's a little bit of platforming otherwise where you're just running around and carrying barrels and stuff, but mostly the meat of this level is climbing up and down ropes.
Yes.
As they move through obstacles.
Yeah, it's kind of like a forced scrolling type thing, like almost an auto scroller in a few segments.
Pretty much. You get to decide when it starts though, because the rope just hangs out there, waits for you to jump on it, and then and you're off.
You can sort of anticipate what's going to come, and let yourself get psyched out.
And you do. Oh yes. I had a little bit of trouble with this level. Not much, not as much as the barrel one, the treetop one, but this one, like,
interesting. So you thought that that the previous level, Treetop Town, was a little bit harder than this one?
Yes, definitely.
Okay,
definitely. The timing was much harder to get on that one than on this one, because like this one, I think I played it 3 times. Something like that. Yeah, really small number. I went through like 10 lives on the other one. This one I went through a couple, and it was just like my judgment was bad a couple times. That's what it was. Just my judgment was bad. I'm like, oh, that zinger's not going to be up there. Oh, it was just up there in time. Oh, well, I was a little too slow.
Right. And it's one of those things where you might not be able to predict which direction they're going to go or when they're going to change directions if it's your first time playing it.
Yeah, and it's basically like you can recognize what exactly you did wrong, so you can compensate for that easily next time. Like on the barrel one, Treetop Town, your timing had to be perfect or near perfect. Not, you had a little bit.
It's a little forgiving.
Yeah, it is a little bit, but not much. And you had to get it. And that was the hard part. It wasn't just like, oh, I went up that time, I should have gone down instead. Like, and that's easy to fix.
Yeah. I actually take the opposite point of view, though. I think that this stage is actually harder than Treetop Town.
Really?
Personally.
Interesting.
At least I definitely did as a kid, and I think I still do now. Mainly for the area in the second half where you're on the auto-scrolling vine and all those neckies are flying straight at you. Uh-huh. I find that part pretty challenging.
Really? That didn't give me any trouble.
Well, it doesn't give me trouble now, but when I was a kid, I found that part very difficult.
Okay, sure.
Definitely more than anything in Treetop Town.
When you were a kid, did you know that if you held Y, you climbed faster?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Or, maybe I was holding Y anyway and not really knowing it. But yeah, that's something that like I have been experimenting with the mechanics of the game and discovered, that for sure, yes, it does make you go faster to hold Y when you're climbing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was wondering about that. I also was wondering, before I played, I was wondering about that. But I was also wondering, does Diddy climb faster than Donkey Kong?
He does.
He does indeed. Because I did notice that you were always Diddy, but you're always Diddy anyways.
Yeah.
So I was like, I wonder if Diddy's fast. That's really interesting.
If you're Donkey, you're dead.
It seems such it's his country.
Is it?
And he's the worst.
I mean, as we've been learning from these David Attenborough interludes, this is not his country at all.
No, it's not. He's a traveler in his strange land, apparently.
He's a predator. There are, local fauna that have been here longer than him. He's what do they call it when you introduce something that's not supposed to be?
An invasive species.
He's an invasive species.
I can't argue that. He shouldn't be there. That's why there's so few Kongs. They just got there and they're already rampaging through the land.
Right, that's right. But the island is shaped like his head. So we've got Kremling temples, but the island is shaped like his face.
He showed up.
What are we to make of this?
He Mount Rushmore'd it.
He carved it into his image.
It used to be King K. Rool. He's like, no. I mean, really, that really is the only explanation.
It's the only logical explanation.
The island wouldn't change to suit to like accommodate him. He made the island accommodate him.
He made the island, folks.
He forced it. He forced himself upon it.
Oh my God. We don't condone his actions.
No, not at all. I keep saying he's the villain. You always fight me.
Well, Aaron, what do you think of the forest background, tile set, this whole aesthetic?
Now that you pointed it out to me.
Yeah, you thought it was the jungle earlier.
I just sort of like saw green and I didn't really look too closely at it. So the first level of this, what's it called?
That would be vulture culture.
Vulture culture. The first level, I didn't even notice it was a jungle or a forest set. I just was like, oh, we're back to the jungle set and went about my business.
Right.
But now, now you pointed it out and I saw it and I quite like it. It really is like being in the Pacific Northwest. You're like,
yeah, giant redwood trees.
Yeah, you are Bigfoot and like
Sasquatch.
You're mythical Sasquatch.
Did you ever see Missing Link?
No.
You know what I'm talking about? The stop motion animation movie with Sasquatch played by Zach Galifianakis.
No.
And Hugh Jackman's an explorer who's looking for him. And then together they go try to find Shangri-La so he can meet the Yetis because he's the last Sasquatch.
This is a real thing?
This is a real movie, yeah.
It's not like a fever dream you had?
I mean, maybe. It's always a possibility.
I haven't heard of this at all. I absolutely want to see it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think it's on Hulu now or Amazon Prime maybe.
Okay.
But it was a pretty good watch.
Okay.
Now it's now considered the worst animation bomb in history.
Okay.
Because of just how badly it did compared to how expensive it was to make.
Yeah, I never even heard of it. You said stop motion?
It's stop motion. Yeah, I mean with some CG, but mainly stop motion.
Sure. So like it's all Wallace and Gromit. Like it's not just Bigfoot who's stop motion.
No, yeah,
because that would have been awesome. I would have been really interested to see that like Jason and the Argonauts type stop motion with Hugh Jackman hanging out there,
Ray Harryhausen type stuff. That'd be great.
It would. I was like, when you were describing it, that's what I thought it was, and I was really excited. Now I know it's just a cartoon, quote unquote cartoon, but I'm still interested. I like Zach Galifianakis a lot.
Yeah, it's there's some good like sight gags and slapstick humor.
Okay.
Yeah, I recommend it, folks.
Maybe we'll have to check it out. Yeah.
But that was a slight digression. I forget what we were talking about. Sasquatch. Set. Yeah, the tile set of like the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. Like I said, now you pointed out, I really appreciate it. I like it a lot.
Well, I'm sorry to break this to you, but this is the final time we will ever see this tile set.
You know what? That's okay. Moving on. You can't look back, can't live in the past.
Yeah, kill the past.
Kill it if you have to.
It's interesting though, don't you think, that there's only 2 of these types of stages in this game? I
appreciate it.
Yeah.
After we played through Super Mario Brothers, where it was very, very repetitive and lots of similar tile sets, I really appreciate it. I know it's not super uncommon in games, to
make a tile set just for a few stages.
Yeah. So like, but after playing through Mario Brothers and spending so much time analyzing it, I'm like, this is nice, new things all the time.
Yeah, this is a very lush game.
Yeah, it's so fleshed out. It's great. Such a good game. You guys better be playing it.
Play it.
Play it.
It's just amazing to me that they put so much resources into making a very detailed background and foreground and all the assets for it, only to use it twice.
I mean, it's good. It's good. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for all that work, guys.
Thank you, Greg Males, Tim Stamper, Steve Males, Chris Sutherland.
I thought you said great males at first.
Greg Males?
I thought when you said Greg Males, I thought you said great males. Like you great men, great males of history.
Great males of history. There are 2 bonus areas in this stage.
I didn't see one of them.
They are. Wait, no, you did. You saw when I played it.
When you played it, I didn't. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't. Didn't visit them myself.
They're both pretty well hidden. One is You have to drop off one of those auto-scrolling vines at the right moment. You can barely see the top lip of a barrel.
Yeah, I remember you pointed and said, look at the bottom. I
there.
said, there's the tiniest little lip of it.
Yeah. You really have to be paying attention. And like a whole bunch of neckies are trying to kill you at the same time. So you're not looking at the bottom of the screen.
You're trying to save your own neck. Ha!
Hey-o, there it is. And then the second bonus area is you have to carry a barrel up a series of platforms, then down a series of platforms while a bunch of blue crimlings are jumping up and down.
Yes.
So you got to time it right so you don't bust your barrel too early. We've all been there, haven't we, folks?
You know what we're talking about. We're talking about Donkey Kong Country.
No animal friends in this stage. We haven't seen any animal friends yet in Vine Valley.
No, we didn't.
But we will.
We got some of their, we get their little tokens, though.
Yes, we have gotten plenty of tokens.
Yeah, solid gold versions of them.
Also, no warps in this stage.
No.
We're done with warps for this world.
Wow. Okay, good.
There were 2 in a row, back to back.
Yeah, that's enough. You and we'd always play through the level and struggle through it, and be like, you want me to show you how to beat this level? And, sure, Andy, show me how to beat it. And it just drops off wherever. And
this is the real way to beat this level. Well, so it sounds like we like Forest Frenzy. Is that about the consensus here?
That would be.
Are you ready to shift gears, Aaron?
Oh, yes. What are we doing?
Now that we've discussed this stage and how wonderful it was, I thought we would shift gears and introduce a new feature to the show. And this feature, I have a tentative title for it, but we can change it if you think of something better.
Okay.
But we're tentatively calling this Technical Difficulties.
Okay.
So this has to do with the more technical side of the game. We've been talking about, the soft artistic stuff so far. But now we will shift gears and discuss a little bit of like under the hood of Donkey Kong Country, at least to the best of my abilities.
Okay.
not being an engineer or a computer scientist.
You
myself.
haven't personally taken apart the Donkey Kong Country cartridge to see how it works and reverse engineered the game a la Rare.
That's correct. Yeah. For those of you who didn't listen to the Super Mario Brothers series.
What are you thinking?
Rare, or I guess we talked about this in early episodes of this series.
Yeah, I think it was season 2 here.
Yeah. But yeah, Chris and Tim Stamper opened up some NES hardware and reverse engineered it. And that's how they impressed Nintendo and became like second party licensees.
Yeah, really showed their mettle and that they were dedicated to it.
They were scrappy young programmers.
They were, and it worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
It did work. What was I saying? Oh, technical difficulties. So that was one technical difficulty. But when they made this game, we've mentioned this before, but they used sophisticated silicon graphics computer systems. And these are the same ones that Pixar would use a little bit later to make Toy Story. So it's kind of an industry standard, the software and the hardware that they were using. It was very difficult. We've learned a lot from interviews about like how all this worked, but Greg Mails and, Chris Sutherland, Kevin Bayless have said that like to do this, they had to have these giant manuals, which most of them didn't even read because the manuals were too complicated. They just fired it up and started playing around, and eventually learned how to use these. They took a long time just learning how to use these things before they even made this game. And they did like a tech demo of like a fighting game, and that impressed Nintendo. And so, they eventually got Nintendo's permission to use Donkey Kong as a license for this game. And then, so then that's like a year of just hacking these machines. Then they start actually making Donkey Kong Country.
Now they were also making games.
Not really.
They weren't?
They invested most of their NES profits, which were significant, into buying these workstations.
Okay.
And then they made a few games in this time period, but it was like licensed stuff that didn't take as much effort. And I think a couple Battletoads games.
Okay. So they're making a few games, not nearly how many they were before.
Right.
They were churning and burning these games.
Their output on the NES was insane.
Yeah, and so then they made all that money, took the money to buy this, and made a couple games but most of their time and energy was devoted towards this.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Well, so they're making these models. It's really bold. It's kind of like when we talked about Night Lore, how they held Night Lore for a full year because they didn't want anyone to steal their technology.
Yeah, I've seen the result of that.
Hey, Night Lore was a big seller at the time.
Hey, I'm not.
Don't knock Night Lore.
I'm not knocking it.
There's a lot of diehard Night Lore fans out there.
Fair enough. Don't at me. But like watching the gameplay of that, it made me depressed. I was depressed for a week after that.
It definitely, I don't think it would be very fun to play.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It wasn't fun to watch.
Unless you grew up with it. Oh man, yeah.
Come on.
Aaron is actually really faithfully recreating the sound effects right now. I'm actually kind of impressed.
Go watch it. That's what it. Don't do it. Don't watch it.
Yeah,
that's what it sounds like.
Watch a playthrough for 5 minutes. You probably don't need to watch the whole thing.
You will never forget the sound.
So they're making these 3D assets now, basically like Pixar type stuff. Very sophisticated for the time 3D assets. Now, to give you a sense of the scale, the Rare has said now that like Donkey Kong's model alone, in terms of like raw file size, was larger than the entire cartridge of Donkey Kong Country.
What?
By a lot.
What does that mean?
It means they had to compress it.
Okay, gotcha.
They had to seriously compress it.
Right, sure.
So what they did was take all these animations and assets and compress them down into sprites, basic, sprites that every 2D game uses. So basically what we're seeing in the game is animation that's been done on a Silicon graphics workstation that's been compressed down and basically like turned into, I guess, like a bitmap that's just a sprite in this game.
Sure.
But it just uses the animations that they made on the workstations.
Right.
But so they had to write all this code for the compression and stuff like that, filtering it, making it look kind of good, even though it's pixelated on the SNES now. And so they're compressing these huge file sizes, like, down to like 1/100th or 1/1000th of what they were originally, and doing, basically black magic to get them to work on the SNES.
Well, basically, so just in layman's terms, they basically made these really complicated, ridiculously complicated 3D models and then flattened them.
Kind of.
And
shrunk them down.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And made them 2D sprites.
Yeah, exactly. That not as much, resolution, much lower resolution. Yeah. Pixelated to some extent.
So on the box there, where you see, when you see the picture of Donkey Kong and Diddy, those would be then probably maybe the fully rendered 3D models of all these characters.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think they would have just rendered it on the workstation and just taken a screenshot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. That's cool.
And if you look in through the manual and other supplementary materials like the strategy guide, you'll see all that same artwork in those.
It's also shiny.
It is.
They're very shiny.
So nice.
It does look nice. But it also does look a lot like Toy Story. Yeah. Like the very like you look at Woody and his like face and his, hands and stuff. He looks like Donkey Kong's, like, his fleshy parts look like Woody, and it's really interesting.
They're kind of like evenly shaded. Yeah. Like you said, kind of shiny looking. Very, very indicative of like early CG 3D graphics.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really, 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 really great for its time. Now it looks a little.
It's a little dated.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think this game holds up pretty well.
Sure. I mean, if nothing else, it still looks great, but pair how it still looks pretty great with awesome gameplay, and I think this is going to be a timeless game.
I agree. Especially when you do the CRT filter. I think something about the CRT like blurriness makes them look a little better.
And we're talking about on the SNES Mini here.
True, yeah.
That's what we're playing it on because
I guess there's CRT filters on emulators, but we don't condone emulation on this program.
No. Some of our more loose cannon guests might, but
we've cut ties with them.
They're dead to us.
They're on the pay no mind list. One more thing I wanted to say about technical difficulties today. Some might be wondering, does this game actually use tiles or is it just some other kind of 3D background? It actually is tiles.
Oh, is it?
After they did the compression of all the background assets, they're in the SNES architecture, they're converted into tiles. So from what I've read, and again, I'm not an engineer, but from what I've read, these are actual tile sets. So they really would be like arranging the tiles.
That's really interesting. Like, cause that every time we say tile set, I was thinking like, just in the back of my mind, not enough to even say anything. It's like, It's not like Mario Brothers was little 8 bits, just plug and play. They're much more complex, even though it's only 16 bits, but
they're not as blocky and square as with like Mario.
Right. Yeah. So, you almost imagine that they would like hand draw this, quote unquote, hand draw this stuff. But that's interesting that they didn't.
Yeah. It is interesting. I mean, if you look closely, you can see where sections get repeated.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are tiles actually.
Cool.
So this has been a new segment, Technical Difficulties.
I like it. I like
tentative title, but we'll probably go back to this a little bit more in the future.
Oh, we definitely should. I'm sure that there's a lot more to dive into in this area.
Definitely. With this game especially. The technical aspects are pretty impressive. Aaron, do you have anything else that you want to say about Forest Frenzy before we sign off today?
I really liked it. There was a shocking number of neckies at the end there.
It was an embarrassment of neckies.
A murder of neckies.
Oh my God.
No, it was great. That's exactly what I expected from what's the name of this world? Vine Valley. Vine Valley. That's what I was here for. I knew that this level was coming. What about you? Any last words on this?
I would just like to say this was a fine level, and it's too bad that we won't see this tile set again forever.
It's gone forever.
Folks, we're going to be back in your podcast feed real soon with stage 4 of Vine Valley, which is called Temple Tempest.
Temple Tempest. The temple tile set again?
It's temple time.
Yay!
We're going back to Legends of the Hidden Temple.
I love it.
On the next episode, so please join us for that. In the meantime, follow us on social media. Send us an email at onestagepod@gmail.com. Let us know what your thoughts on this stage are. And perhaps we will even read your thoughts on a future episode of this program.
Yep. onestageatatime.com for all of our things. And thank you for watching and listening. You want to do the sign off, Andy?
Yes, sir. Until next time, save and continue.